Hello, it's Denise. That's my dog barking, and I'm in the greenhouse. I am about to go up to the potting shed because I have some peppers and chilies to pot on. But first, I wanted to show you the progress on the peas. The sun's come out, the rain hat's on. That's the kind of weather we're getting here late March on the Solway coast, and I think it's pretty much the same up and down the country. Let's have a look at those peas. There. So the Rossa peas are up, as are the Magnum peas and the Oscar early peas. There's a few cauliflowers there. Up to the potting shed. Well, I made it up into the potting shed, and as you can see, I'm sitting in front of some all-purpose compost. And I need to pot on these sweet peppers. So that's Turkish Delight and Bellboy. I've had absolutely no luck at all with a couple of the other varieties. That's what we got there. Turkish Dolma, tried that last year, no show. And De Toro Yellow, also a no-show last year, no-show this year, so I think maybe dodgy seeds. Having said that, I keep my seeds in my potting shed, which is an absolute no-no, because what your seeds don't really want is those extreme temperatures. It's hot in here when it's sunny, and then all winter it's cold. I try to mitigate that. They're in a polystyrene box, one of these sort of things if you buy meat. I had a meat order and it came in a polystyrene box, and it's underneath some shelving in here to sort of minimize the impact of the heat and cold on it. But even so, I think I need to start keeping my seeds up in the house to give them the absolute best chance. Anyway, I'm waffling. I wanted to talk about vermiculite and perlite, and I thought this was a good opportunity to have a little chat. So here we have vermiculite, and the question is, why use vermiculite? Why take the stuff that you're buying in bags, the all-purpose compost, and why add stuff to it? The reason you add vermiculite is, as it says on the packet, holds nutrients and water near to the root, and that's exactly what it does. So if you can look at this stuff, it's really light, but it absorbs moisture. So when you mix this in with your compost, what that's doing is it's creating little pockets of moisture, and it's sticky stuff. Look how it's sticking to my hands. Look how it's sticking to the compost. Well, it will stick to the roots of your seedlings and your plants. Let's give them a steady flow of nutrients directly onto the roots, and also moisture too. Do you have to? Well, the answer is no. Have you ever seen a plant growing in a really unlikely place and thought, how on earth does it live? How does it survive there? And there's the thing, plants want to grow, and plants will generally grow, but it's about giving them the best opportunity to grow. As gardeners, we want to try and give them the optimum start in life, and then really nice growing conditions. We don't want them just to grow, we want them to thrive. So that's why I'm adding this vermiculite into my compost. Don't always do it. It depends what I'm growing and how much effort and expense I want to go to. But in this case, it's for my peppers and my chilies. And I really want to give them absolute best chance because I've got a short growing season and I want a good harvest. Just add a little bit more to that. Right, so next up, perlite. So how is perlite different to vermiculite? They do two different things. Let me show you some perlite. perlite, they're like little rocks, and these are about aerating the soil. Roots need air, they need nutrients, they need a growing medium, they need water, but they also need air. And by mixing in perlite, you're basically creating air pockets and good drainage. So it means that the water, the little lumps of rock, really, they're like tiny little pebbles, these help with drainage. The water will flow through the compost a lot easier, and that means that the compost is less likely to get waterlogged. A waterlogged compost gives you a bigger chance of getting root rot and actually suffocating those roots, which, as I said, need oxygen. So I'm adding in the perlite. Now, I think it was last year or the year before, I was really on a tight budget. And I thought, well, what can I do? What can I use instead of perlite? How can I save a bit of money? And I actually bought the really, really fine gravel, and I mixed that in. Did a bit of an experiment. If I'm honest, I couldn't tell a difference between the plants that were growing in all-purpose compost with a little bit of very fine gravel mixed in, and the plants that were growing with perlite. There you go. So I've mixed in some vermiculite, I've mixed in some perlite, and now I'm just going through and making sure there are no lumps. It's not so important when the plant goes into its final growing pot, but at this stage, these seedlings are going to be potted in a small pot, and they're probably going to get potted on 2 or 3 times before they go into their final growing position. And as I move them about, I want to create as little root damage as possible. And the finer you get this soil, apparently, the better it will be. Now, if you take a look at my front page, you'll notice that I flag up my favourite channels. And Steve at Greenside Up recently talked about this. I really do recommend go and have a look at some of those channels, because they really do know what they're talking about. And Steve at Greenside Up recommends actually sieving. I don't have a sieve. It's on my list of stuff to buy. So here we go. I'm going to transplant one of these peppers. I like these. I like using these for gardening. They're dead cheap, and I just punch holes in the bottom. They're just those ideally single-use drinking cups, but they last me absolutely ages. I get a number of years growing out of these, and when they finally split, I'll use them for bird scarers on bits of bamboo pole. So I really do get my money's worth, and they are certainly not single-use. So what I will do is I'll fill it about 3/4 of the way up, and then you want something long and thin. Dig underneath the plant that you're after, loosen it up. Now the stem is really delicate, so you want to handle it by the leaf, and there it comes. You see those roots? Looking quite nice. Dig my finger in, and in it goes. I just use my fingers to gently push it in, and then I just support it with one finger, and I fill in around. Now this is a pepper plant. Peppers, like tomatoes, will grow. See that long leggy stem there? tomatoes and peppers will push out roots all along that stem. And that's true of a lot of plants. So you can actually bury it quite deep. So I'm aiming to get as much as that of that stem buried into the compost as possible. And I'll just leave a little space for watering at the top. Most experienced gardeners will tell you to water from the bottom, and they're absolutely right to say that. If you want guaranteed results, it's the better way to water. Because if you water from the bottom, you're encouraging those roots to go down. But, and here's the but, you've also got to be incredibly careful about overwatering. And I've actually found that I'm more likely to overwater when I do it like that. So what I actually do with these little cups is when I water the seedlings, I will just very carefully dribble water into the top until it puddles around here. And because it's a small pot, I'm giving it a very measured amount of water, and that works for me. On the flip side, I'm probably going to get a mossy top. You know, each to their own, but that works for me. That is a Turkish delight. I mean, literally every seed that I've sown of that variety has come up, and I'm going to have probably far too many, but I just can't not grow them on. So there we have one Turkish delight, and before I forget, I'm going to write out the label. And this might sound obvious, but honestly you will forget, and I forget. So Turkish delight. Pop in the label. There you go. I'll leave those for a moment. Before I leave you, I'll share with you my latest seed purchase, and I tell you, it's an addiction. Well, if you watched my last video, and I'll leave a link up here, it was all about tomato varieties. Take a look. I said I'd finished selecting my tomatoes, but no, I came to plant my Sun Gold and my Opero. I talk about those in that video. And I realised I'd got only one Opero seed, and my goodness, that seed's getting a lot of love. It's up now, it's tiny. And I'd only got 4 Sun Golds, so I thought, I need more cherry tomatoes. I've got Blue Fire Vine Tomato. Oh, this sounds amazing. Starts out deep blue and then ripens to red and black, eventually becoming covered with gold splashes. Oh, those are going to look fabulous in a salad. Organic tender true parsnip. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people are doing the Gladiator challenge, but it's an F1 and I like open pollinated, so I'll give a different variety a go. Night scented stock pink, that's a flower, and apparently it's very so easy to grow. Children can grow it, and it smells beautiful at dusk. Oh, chocolate cherry vine tomato. A very sweet cherry tomato with lots of purple brown fruit, about 1 inch across. You should get about 6 to 8 fruit per truss. Sounds lovely. Right, I wanted a really traditional red cherry tomato to compensate for my lack of a Pero this year. So I've gone for Gardener's Delight Irish version. Apparently it's bred from a Turkish Delight, but it's quite different. Turkish Delight. It's bred from a Gardener's Delight, but it is a bit different. A very sweet, small red cherry, smaller than the real gardener's delight, but excellent nonetheless. Oh, Brussels sprouts, Sander variety, and early purple sprouting broccoli. Well, folks, that's all from the potting shed. Take a look at my tomato video before you leave me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.